Good evening, everybody. So, Geert has now officially stepped down as chairman. And I was asked by the board to say a few words about him, which is, of course, very dangerous because I resigned from my position as vice chairman. So there's absolutely nothing I have to lose. But I collected a bit of feedback on Geert. And there are three things on Geert as a person that were shared with me that I think is worth sharing with all of you. So looking back at 3.5 years of Geert as the chairman of the Netherlands-Polish Chamber of Commerce, the first thing everybody said about Geert is we love his passion, his positive energy, how he's engaged, no matter, how things go wrong all the time, he's always engaged and very positive. And I think this is a huge credit to you, I think, Geert. Now, the second thing they said about you is relationships. So I said, what do you mean relationships? What is this guy doing? Yeah? No. They meant something very serious, which is whatever event you go to, you saw Geert. So everybody knows Geert. He was present at all events. And over the past years, there were hundreds of events held where Geert was really the leading guy for the Dutch community and actually being an ambassador to the Dutch community and presenting the Dutch interest. So I think that, again, is a very big compliment. But the last thing, and this is maybe less known, and this is the third thing that was mentioned about you, this is leadership. So in the past 3.5 years, we had a couple of moments where, for instance, a famous Dutch politician called Geert Wilders was in a difficult situation in the Netherlands. And then Geert was the person who said, look, we're not going to accept this. And on behalf of the Dutch Chamber, we'll send a letter to the Dutch government expressing our concerns. And I think this is a sign of leadership. And you did the same on the moment when the Dutch farmers had a situation in Poland. So this requires guts, this requires courage and leadership, and also that you had. So, as a person, I think we look back at you as a great chairman. But obviously, I would not just leave it as, okay, this was a great leader, we all like him, we all love him. So I also checked a few facts. So where was the chamber a few years ago? So 3.5 years ago, how many members did we have? Does anybody know? 5? It was a bit more. Yeah. So it was about 90. Yeah. Today we have more than 200, so we doubled. In terms of financials, it's a very safe and financially sound organization that we have. And there's a small anecdote here because Geert would always prepare the Dutch Chamber every Monday morning, and he would talk with Elro. And then, Geert is professionally involved with BKZ, and he was, very busy with the BNP Paribas merger. So he would call Elro and say, "So Elro, where is this 20 million going?" And then Elro said, 20,000, Geert, 20,000. Yeah. So just to put his, feet back on earth. Yeah. But it does, say a lot about you that in the midst of this, extremely difficult merger, you were always very engaged in all of these things. So, last but not least, we want to thank you, and we want to thank you with a present. It's a gift. It's from a Polish artist called Marcin Grząza. He's the son of a very famous Polish artist, and he now has really his own art collection. He's originally from Zakopane, and he makes fantastic wooden statues. And I think this will serve as a great memory of your period here in Poland, and a great thank you from the Dutch Chamber and all of the members for everything you did for us in the past year. So Geert, if I can invite you on stage and have a big applause for Geert.
Dutch tradition always tells you can unwrap a present. I know internationally that's not always done, but very beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Geert, thank you very much for these kind words. Indeed, 20,000, 20 million. It was sometimes hoovering a bit with the numbers, but it also sometimes put me with both feet on the ground. Because as a banker, you always think in very big bucks, but sometimes it are the small things that matter. So I was given the opportunity to serve the board for 3.5 years, and I really appreciated that role. And for me, these were very colorful years. A lot happened, and I think together with you, I think the chamber brought a lot of color to my life. And that I think is something I'm very, very proud and grateful for. It gave me a great start in Poland, because when I arrived, of course, a lot of things were new to me. And then I was called by my predecessor, Eric Drok. And he said, Geert, we spoken to a few people. We think you would be the excellent candidate. And I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. Then I met Elro, and we had a first board meeting. And they said, yeah, in mid-September we have this event. It's called the Rijsttafel. Now, I came from Indonesia, so I knew what a Rijsttafel was. I think it's good that you attend, and you will be there. Maybe come a bit early, and we'll discuss things. So I went to the Hilton Hotel at that time. And there we were in a big ballroom with 350 people. And I was amazed. And it was a first start. And since then, I think I've enjoyed every moment of it. Today it ends. There's one blessing in disguise. As you may know, as a board, one of the rules that I introduced was board members cannot join the raffle. And Stefan, who is not here today, but he once was just appointed as board member and then joined still the raffle, and he won something, but he had to give it back because we always think governance-wise it's not appropriate. From now on, and I know, for example, Pavel was one of the guys who won quite a few prizes. I will join you in that contest. No, but just jokingly, I'm happy that I can step down in such a solid environment. We have a very stable board. We have a very good representation. I always strongly believe that a network effect and a network only works when you have a good group. 90 members was nice. 200 is already a very good network. You know, it should not go on endlessly, but I think there's still an opportunity to further grow it. And I think also Robert Jan and the team are, I think, well placed to further increase it. So I have a deep feeling of gratitude to all of you. Thank you very much for giving me also the pleasure of meeting you every month at various meetings, because it gave me a lot of energy. And as Chad referred to, some of the times that I had here were very hectic. And then at around 4 o'clock, I would, on the first Tuesday of the month, I would close my work and I would tell everybody, no, I have to leave. I would walk for 15 minutes to the Hilton Hotel at the time. And it gave me 15 minutes of fresh air and reflection, which was great. And I could start really re-energized to my real hobby, which was the chamber in that time. And I've really always enjoyed it, even though it was sometimes hectic. But I've enjoyed it because I got so much back from you in personal relationships, in making friends, and also in learning a lot about Poland and what drives all of you. So I would like to thank you all, but I also would like to mention a few people specifically. First of all the board members. Most of them stand here, but I think also spread around the crowd. Thank you very much. It's been great working with you. Some of you are relatively new, and I think it's great that we have some younger, I think, representation in the board. It's always a bit of an evolution. So I'm very happy that's brought in. I'm also very happy that we have active chambers in Poznan, in Łódź. I think that's something that we've worked out well, and it's something which we can also bring, I think, more value to customers. So thank you very much for that. When it comes to succession, even though you might be sometimes looking at the magazine and you think, here's this guy again with a picture on the front cover. And I'm sorry for that, for this time. You won't see a lot of me in that anymore. But the chamber is not a one-man show. I think it's something which is brought by the board, and that's why I'm happy, and also brought by many other people. In that sense, I'm very happy that Robert and Remco, as chairman and vice chairman, can take over and continue, I think, to be on the front, covering and representing the board as a full team. If we talk about the board, also a word of a big thanks to Elro. Elro and I, we started 3.5 years together. He was new, I was new. And this was something, Elro, that we both had to find out. I think we very quickly found a way to work together well. We had the famous Monday morning calls, 8 o'clock for half an hour. We went through the week, and I think the cooperation and your endless endeavor in making the things work are a very big success. And the words of Tjeerd are very kind, but I think a lot of that is owing to you. because of your endless efforts to improve the chamber. So I would like to really ask for an applause also for Alro on that. And what you may not know, but Alro is also the driving force behind the Dutch soccer club on Monday nights. And I'm not a great soccer player, but Alro got me into it. And I think it was great. I learned a lot about soccer. Thank you for that as well. And in return, I sometimes help Alro a bit on understanding the finance for his studies. So I think that's a very good combination. And we also got to know each other beyond only, I think, the endeavors of the chamber. Then also a very big word of thanks to the embassy. I'm very happy Paul is here, Guusje is here, also to Marianne and to Martijn, and also to the previous representatives of the chamber. Paul, Guusje, thank you very much. It was great cooperation. We keep each other sharp, we challenge each other once in a while, but I really appreciate that, and that keeps you also fresh as a chairman, because it's good to sometimes hear different opinions, etc., particularly in a country like Poland where that's not always the case. So it's good to have that. Thank you very much for good cooperation. I think one of the best experiences for all of us was the royal visit. And of course, the embassy was the big driver behind it and also gave a very, very great role to the chamber for that. So thank you very much. If I mention Alro, I also want to mention Anna. Because Anna, you are, let's say, the secret driving force behind the chamber. Thank you very much. And also there, I would like to really ask an applause. You bring in a very interesting mix with a bit of Belgium, and we call them Benelux experience from Brussels. And also, I think you make things work, clockwork orange, as we say. And I think that is really, really great. Last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife, Pauline. It's great you're here. You always allowed me to make the time, even if I spend too much time at office. Mea culpa, bardzo przepraszam. But it's great that you allowed me to do this, and that made it work as well. Thank you very much. So, Poland, I think, is a great country. I feel a bit bad to leave because, as we presented during the Dutch-Polish Business Awards, the growth potential is still enormous. Even this morning with Guusje, I discussed it. In the banking industry, it's still a lot of potential. I think we've calculated that in 2028, the Polish economy will be as big as the Dutch economy, and over the time, the Polish economy will grow twice the rate of the Dutch economy. While the Dutch economy currently is not growing very much, the Polish economy, thank God, is. So we're very happy with that. And so in that sense, there's a great future ahead of you. There's great potential for Poland. Seize it. I think entrepreneurs are the big drivers of further growth of Poland. And as I started in the beginning, I think it's a very colorful experience. There's only one color difference in the flags between Poland and Holland. It's blue. So keep the color alive, keep the spirit alive. Polska biało-czerwoni. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Geert, for your beautiful words. And, well, thank you, all of you, for being here today. I think it's a huge recognition for you that not only your wife is here, but we have such a high turnout of members here tonight, and that even the ambassador, Paul, thank you for coming, also took the time to be here. I think that is the best signal that you can get, that there is a huge recognition and reward for your leadership of the Chamber over the last 3.5 years. I just want to thank you for your strong, enthusiastic support to support me to enter into my new role. I'm not that long yet here in Poland. We arrived actually with the family in August last year. I'm married, a father of 3 children, working in my spare time that I will have right now for Unilever as well. And I'm really very enthusiastic and passionate to work together with all the members and actually the board and with Remco to bring actually the next journey of the chamber to the next stage. But I'm pretty sure that we will have a lot of opportunities to meet each other in the coming weeks, in the coming months, and I'm really interested in your stories and your feedback and what you think that we can do further to really bring the chamber to the next level. I think Geert did already an incredible job by doubling actually the number of members, by actually broadening the board. Actually the language, for example, changed during the last 3.5 years from Dutch to English, which is also a good sign that we are really integrated here in the Polish community, and I'm really looking forward to work with you together. I will keep it very short. Actually, it's my job to turn over the microphone to Guusje. I'm very pleased that you're here as well, and I'm sure that you have some presents and probably some nice words because you're holding them already for a long time. Guusje, up to you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say a few words of thanks. Today I would like to seize the opportunity to really thank you very much for the great cooperation between the Chamber and the Embassy. Well, your successes, your achievements of the Chamber have been mentioned already. But I would like to thank you for the cooperation between the Embassy and the Chamber, because I really think that we've done some very great events together. Of course, the royal visit was, I think, the crown on the work. Unfortunately, I missed it. But I heard it was a great success, and I think it really was an example of how we can work together and achieve great results. What struck me in the last few months that I've been working with you is that there are two qualities that are really very typical of you and that made you a great chairman. And one of them is that Geert really knows how to work the room, so to say. I saw him at the New Year's reception in Poznan. You have a word and time for everyone. And I think that's really nice. You spoke at the end of the evening in 2 hours to everyone there, I think. It was 100 people, so it was rather an achievement. I didn't manage to. So I have a lot to learn from you still. And the other thing is, I think, and it was mentioned by Geert as well, you always stay calm. Whatever happens around you, you're very calm. And I think that's a very good quality as well as a chairman. So we're sad to see you go, but we want to thank you for everything that you contributed to the Dutch-Polish ties. And they're long historical ties. I have a present that reflects that as well. And you greatly contributed to those ties. And then a few words to the new chairman. Well, welcome. We're very happy that you're going to be the new chairman. We think it's always very nice to be inspired when you're entering a new position of leadership. And we had the great opportunity last week to follow a masterclass, I would say. A masterclass of a great coach. Wonderful results, great team. We were standing behind him for, I think, 2 hours. And we watched him work with his team. And his team really achieves great results. So we have a little picture of him to remember and to remind you of inspiring leadership. There's one big however, and that's that we think the style of coaching doesn't really work on the work floor. When you say, "Shaka, Rico, shaka, shaka," wouldn't really work, I think, when you do that to your own team. So that's why we have a second picture to remind you to keep your eye on the ball, which is the team in the end. So first of all, I will give the more serious present to Geert. It's pictures of a Dutch photographer of Warsaw in 1934. And it really reflects the ties between the Netherlands and Poland. So thank you very, very much. Thank you. And then we have the famous coach that should be the inspiring Frank de Boer. We were standing right behind him last week during the match. So this is the one picture. And this, because his style of coaching, although the results are great, is not very inspiring. This is the team that you should always keep your eye out for. So we wish you all the best in your new function. And we look forward to cooperating.
Before we go to John, I would like to invite the sponsor of the evening, Arcadis. Martin, can you please come to the stage?
Goedenavond.
Goedenavond. And maybe say a few things about Arcadis.
We're the proud sponsor of tonight's drinks, especially that it's Geert for you and for the new chairman. So thank you very much for offering us this opportunity to be the sponsor. Just as 2 words of reminder, Arcadis were consultants and engineers and four main business lines in environment, water, infrastructure and buildings. So if you drive to Poznań, we designed this motorway. If you're going to go to Racibórz, we designed the water reservoir. Actually, this building, we were double-checking the construction design of the InterContinental, and I can go volumes about it. So to avoid embarrassing silence, I think we should pass the mic to the speaker of tonight, John.
The other bands have played and now I get to come on, and I'll try not to keep you too long because you probably had enough of the earlier speeches that you don't want any more from me, or too much from me. Thank you for the invitation. I came because I have written a book about my 20 years in Poland, a memoir. The story started a good deal longer than that because I was a war correspondent. I worked for Time magazine. I covered wars throughout the world. And one day I was in Lagos in Nigeria, and I was going to see a colleague and friend of mine and a good source of information at the American Embassy. When I got there, the consulate is right next to the embassy, and I walked down the line and I saw this very pretty girl, and I always say hello to pretty girls, so I said hello to her, and what's a nice girl like you doing in a place like that, like this, or something very corny, and she was Polish. All Polish girls are very pretty. So I asked her if she would marry me. Well, actually, that was much later. But she was very impressed with me because she was waiting for a visa, trying to get a visa to the United States, and I knew the Consul General very well, and I said, listen, I said, look, I'll see what I can do for you. So I went into the embassy and I saw the Consul General. I said, look, there's this very pretty Polish girl. This was during the communist era, so Polish people were not as welcome as they are around the world. Can you do something? And he did, and she had a visa the same day, and normally it took 2 or 3 days, and she was totally impressed with me. She said, wow, what a fixer. What else can she do, she asked. What else? Later on, I also showed her what a really good fixer I was, because I was the bureau chief for Latin America, and I often used to go to Panama. And one time I was in Panama, and I had a long interview with General Noriega, who was at that stage the president of Panama. And I had several times asked Anya, who by then was my wife, to get a visa to come down to Panama. We were living in Mexico City. And she said, look, I hate the Panamanians. I've been to the embassy 5 times, and they've told me to get out because they don't want any communists, because Poland was a communist country, in our fine country. I mean, Panama is not really known for its human rights and democracy and things. So at the end of this interview, General Noriega said to me, Mr. Borrell, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. He was hoping I would say, can you get me girls or boys or drugs or something? And I said, well, Mr. President, there is. Could you organize a visa for my wife, who's in Mexico City, so she can come down here and we can whoop it up in your fine country? He said, Mr. Borrell, I told him, I said there'd been problems, and he said, Mr. Borrell, you come back, you tell your wife to go tomorrow. And I called my wife, and I said, listen, I think I've sorted out the visa. She said, I'm not going there. They're horrible to me. And I said, listen, just go. I think I've sorted it out. She went the next day. The ambassador came running out the minute she walked into the embassy. Mrs. Borrell, there's been a terrible, terrible mistake. Please come into my office. Do you want a multiple entry visa? Do you want a lifetime visa? Do you want a passport? And she was totally impressed with this, of course, you know. She said, how do you do it? And I said, well, I've got contacts. So the story started there. We lived together in different places. We lived together when I was covering the Middle East. We lived in Cairo. We lived in Vienna when I was covering the Balkans and the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. And one day, she comes from near Gdańsk, and one day I was with her at her family's Działka, just outside of Gdańsk. It's on a beautiful lake. And I'd spent 27 years as a war correspondent, mostly as a war correspondent, always as a foreign correspondent throughout the world, in Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, everywhere. Every horrible place that you can think of, I've been to, I promise. Some of them I've been to several times, which was not a very smart thing. And I decided, look, I've had enough. I was covering the war in Bosnia. It was a nasty war, and I said, look, I've covered 16 or 18, I can't remember how many wars in the last 20 years. They all end in tears, because all wars do. And why am I doing it? I'd lost a lot of friends who had been killed in various places. They used to shoot you in those days. Now they cut your head off, but it's still the same effect. So I said, look, why don't we build a place on this beautiful lake, and we can come and live in Poland. This was after the collapse of communism. It was possible to do things. And she was very reluctant, because she liked living in different places. I had been offered posts in Tokyo and Beijing and places like that, and she was looking forward to going there. And I said, no, I've had enough. I'm tired of being shot at. I'm tired of working through the nights, not having dinner, filing the story at 3 o'clock in the morning. Let's build this. So we eventually started. And I wasn't terribly well equipped for this, because, you know, my wife can't negotiate anything. And I had to go to the farmers to negotiate the purchase of the land. I had to buy 5 pieces off 12 pieces of 5 different farmers. But while I was doing this, my Polish then was non-existent. It's not brilliant now, but hey, we can talk in Polish if you like. In 20 years, it will be more or less perfect. I've just got to live that long. I asked my wife one day, look, I've got to negotiate. I need to learn Polish. And I asked her one day, how do you say envelope in Polish? So she told me, koperta, because I needed to buy 2 big envelopes. So I went off to the nearest town, and I went into the shop, and I wasn't exactly sure. So I said to the lady behind the counter, poproszę pani dwie duże kobiety. Which, any of you who don't speak Polish, what I had said, instead of give me 2 big envelopes, I'd said give me 2 big women. There is a difference. But then I made it worse, because I was thinking, she looked at me nonplussed, and as if I was stupid, and I thought, well, look, I want 2 big envelopes. How do you explain to somebody 2 big envelopes? And I thought about it very quickly. This is a story I can't tell in front of my children. But then I went, how do you explain, an envelope? So I think then there was a special button under the counter that you call the police when a foreign sex maniac comes into your shop. And I had to get out of that shop really quickly, because I could hear the sirens coming. And even today in Kartuzy, I walk on the other side of the street, and I have a newspaper up like this, so that she'll recognize me. She'll say, that's the sex maniac who came in here 20 years ago. And my Polish did get a little bit better, because I realized, hey, listen, you can't go around doing that kind of thing. It's bad for your image. But I had to negotiate with 5 different farmers for 12 pieces of land to have the contiguous 10 hectares roughly that we have, and we built the lodge on. And to do this in Kashubia, you have to go and put a bottle of vodka on the table in the kitchen and negotiate. And normally it's a half a liter. And they said, oh, but you're a foreigner, you're rich. And this was the perception in those days, 20-something years ago, that every foreigner was rich. Of course, they picked on the only one who wasn't rich, and that was me. And they said, but you're rich, you're a foreigner, you have to put a liter on the table. So I was negotiating for the purchase of this land with a liter bottle of vodka on the table. There's only 2 of us. That's quite a lot of vodka. And in Kashubia, you don't put the cork back on, the top back on. You drink it to the end. The problem was, I stayed the course, having been a university student in New Zealand. You learn these kind of things. You learn how to drink and other life skills. But at the end of some of these drinking sessions, the worst thing was that I couldn't remember whether I was buying or selling. The good thing was that the farmer couldn't remember whether he was selling or buying. Eventually, we sorted it out, and I bought the land. We built this lodge. I see many faces here have been to the lodge. We've been there for 20 years. It's the most beautiful place in Poland. I'm allowed a very quick advertisement. It's wonderful. But it was very difficult to build because at that time in Poland, corruption was much more rampant than it is today. And also in rural areas in Poland, in small towns, it was much, much worse because there didn't exist a press or anything like that. So I had lots of problems to build the various parts of this lodge. And eventually I got so fed up with dealing with the local Układ that I started a newspaper of my own. Having been a journalist, I know how to start newspapers, I know how to write, but I had to teach the journalists how to write, and I had to teach the journalists, most importantly, how to report. So this newspaper started, and I fought the local Układ. I got rid of the mayor. I got rid of various other corrupt officials. So needless to say, if you come and see me in Kashubia, anywhere you go around and talk to anybody in officialdom, they will say, John, that nice man. Because most of them are without jobs at the moment. Better that if you come to Kashubia, don't tell them that you know me, okay? And don't tell them you're staying at Kanya Lodge. Anyway, this was a 24-page newspaper. We fought corruption. We did achieve a lot. And we changed some of the politics of the place. In the meantime, because I don't like not being busy, I started a wine company. We import wine from all over the world. We're one of the biggest companies in Poland. And more recently, I started a vodka company. We produce our own vodka, like Polish vodka was produced 100 or 200 years ago. I hope nobody's here from any big vodka companies. Anybody here from a big vodka company? Stand up and let yourself be known now. Okay, nobody. I can say it. Most commercial vodka is industrial, in that it's tastes the same, one company as another, pretty much, because it's distilled and it's rectified 4 times. When you rectify it, you take all of the interesting things out of it. So we make vodka like vodka was made in Poland 100, 200 years ago. We distill it once. So you get flavors. We put a rocznik, a vintage, on our vodka because you cannot make the same vodka year on year. It's like wine. It depends on the climate. It depends the amount of rainfall, all sorts of things. So we make a vodka which has the vintage on it. And over the past 5 years, we've started exporting it to we're in England, we're in France, America, Singapore, Hong Kong, and the idea of the vintage is beginning to take on, and we have, I see competitors in Poland now using the idea of the vintage, which we started 5 or 6 years ago. I was asked to come here because I've just written a book about all of these things, about envelopes and women and life in the fast lane, dealing with farmers. And it was actually published in English last year, The White Lake, because that's the name, Jezioro Białe, where we live in Kashubia. And today is a very auspicious day because the Polish version came out, Nad Jeziorem Białym, and that will be available, this is another small advertisement, that will be available in MPIC, because MPIC owns the publishing company, etc. I brought some copies here today. If you want to know about envelopes and vodka and fighting the local Układ, etc., etc., you are most welcome to buy a book. The best value is the Polish version because it's half the price of the English version. Don't ask me why. But if you speak Polish, buy the Polish version. It's a good deal. I will sign any copies that you like. I'm sorry I have to sell them, but hey, we're poor Kashubian farmers. We need to make a buck when we can. So hand over the money. If you don't have any money, you can give me your business card, and one of my girls in the office will call you and send a couple of Ukrainians with baseball bats if you haven't paid. Sorry, I hope there's no Ukrainians here. I don't mean any disrespect to Ukrainians. I really like them and everything. So I won't keep you any further. If you want to talk to me, I think everybody should get on with eating. I can tell you a lot more about the story of the lodge and the various things that I've started here in Poland and my life in Poland. I'll speak to you and have a good time this evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, John. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much.